Hey YouTube, I'm out elk hunting in woods somewhere in Colorado, and wanted to give you guys a couple little tips that I've been just pondering every experience is a new experience with hunting, but I want to make sure you guys get some good advice on some of this stuff. Okay, this sounds funny, but the first thing you need to always make sure you do is follow all your laws. And I say that because, yeah, I'm wearing camo, and you see camo, and then you see this annoying orange. I look like a freaking orange marshmallow walking around out here, and it drives me nuts. It's like a fluorescent light bulb to all these elk. And I know the game proclamation says, well, they don't see color. Well, no, but they see reflection, and they see, I'm sure, bright looks a lot different than dull trees and dull grass. So I'm not thrilled about wearing all this orange. But the fact of the matter is, while archery season is about a month long, it overlaps the everybody's favorite muzzleloader season, right? And so the thing with muzzleloaders is obviously their rounds cost a lot less than our arrows do, so they can shoot, fire off into the bushes at 100 yards because they thought they heard something, and then there you go, you're done. You're not surviving that. So, not to say that every muzzleloader hunter is a psychopath, but the ones I've seen out here, they just roam around and bugle like they're, this king elk walking through the woods, and they just expect something to jump out and shoot it. Obviously, as archers, if you don't know, that's not how you hunt. The other thing I noticed is it's very common for muzzleloaders to they'll run around the woods in their ATVs and their, nice little rich Polaris vehicles, and they just drive all over the paths everywhere, and they again just expect to find something. I call it road hunting. They'll either be in their trucks, or if they're got some money, they'll drive around in their rich ATVs and stuff. And it's funny because there's obviously some more laws about that, as far as you can't shoot from a road. Your weapon may or may not be able to be loaded. There's all kinds of different regulations for that, A and B. To me, it's cheating, and I've watched people drive right by me, and I'm sitting there in orange, and they just didn't even notice. Or and there's no way. Like some of these hillsides I see, there's deer and elk in here, and I'm hunting elk right now, and they're not going to see them from the road. I don't know what they're expecting, but it's like they think they're just going to drive out here. It's not a freaking McDonald's, you know what I mean? You don't just drive out and be like, hey, look, I take 2 elk burgers, please, and some fries. Oh, and can I have one of those slushies too? Yeah. No, that doesn't happen. So, elk hunting is an art, in my opinion. It's extremely exciting, and be honest with you, while I think I'm actually becoming a very good elk hunter, I would be the first to admit that I still am very green in this process. And that's why I love it so much, because there's so many variables, things that rifle hunting I never had to deal with. I could shoot an elk, 200 yards away, but I could shoot a jug of milk 200 yards away. So is that really hunting? I don't think so. It's too easy to do that. And while some people might argue that, to me it's like, let's give these animals a chance. We're on their turf. Let's make it hard, and that way when you actually get something, you really did everything right, and you had some luck. The other day I was walking through, and I was heading home, and I just happened to cross over a hillside, and I heard clump, 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 and it was the clump of some elk hooves hitting the ground, and I was not even prepared. I was just strolling through thinking, oh, it's time to go, and I didn't have my rangefinder out because I'm wearing the orange, and typically my rangefinder is sitting here in my against my chest pocket. But I saw the elk, and I was like, oh man, I think I could take that shot. And there's a lot of classic mistakes that I did wrong. One of them is I watched where the elk were going. I kind of picked my window, but it wasn't a very good shooting lane. And then, because I didn't know my range, I was looking downhill, and for some reason downhill just looks closer, and elk are big, so I assumed it was about 20 yards. Well, it ended up being 40. And so, because I found that out later after I missed, and I used my rangefinder to try to find what I did wrong. But the other thing I did is, while I've been decent at shooting arrows, and I can do most bullseyes at 20 yards, and 40 of them, you know, I could hit a paper plate. In this case, I didn't pull all the way back. I pulled like 98% back, but I didn't hit the back wall when I drew. I had my release, you know, finger good. That was fine, but I didn't check my level on my sight pin, and the sun was kind of hitting my eyes on the peep sight, so I didn't get a really good focus on that. And then watching, you know, as I'm seeing the elk come through, it steps kind of behind a bush, and I stupidly shot through the bush at what I could see was the vital area, but I pulled really quickly instead of, you know, squeezing that trigger on the release, and that all those make a huge difference, especially when you're talking a delta of 20 yards. So then I looked, spent 2 hours trying to find my arrow because I missed, and the elk ran off, and I looked for blood for 2 hours, and I looked for, you know, that arrow, and I still couldn't find it. It came out this morning with my black light when it was dark, and I could not find that arrow. So it's one of those things where I was really frustrated. It was devastating, honestly. I felt so stupid because I'm like, I can't believe I was there. It was that moment. But what I failed to do is I thought of myself as back in my rifle days, because rifle hunter, you pull your rifle up, you get that X on them, and you fire. You squeeze that trigger gently, but I mean, at 40 yards, I mean, I could have shot a rabbit, a squirrel. I mean, an elk would have been nothing. But archery is much, much different. All those things, all those mechanics matter, and that's why it's important to go over and over and over your skills and just keep practicing, and to where it becomes second nature, or as they call it, muscle memory. Because I didn't even remember to get my my point when I drew back. I didn't make sure I had my cheek weld is what they use in rifle terms. I forget the but when you bring it back against your ear, anyway, that I didn't do that. I didn't make sure I had my my points of contact against my face. So it was one of those things where it happened so quick. And that goes to another point I want to make sure you get is never assume there's nothing out here. You should always in your head say, there's something in here. I just need to be calm and find it. Okay? And the reason why I say that is because even just about 7 minutes ago, I walk over this hillside, and I'm only hunting elk. Okay, I didn't draw a tag for deer, so which is ironic because I've had so many shots at bucks, it's been a joke. But I had to just take pictures of them and let them pass by. But what I do is I slowly came over this hill, and you know, like a giant glowing orange marshmallow, and there was I just had that hunch. There's probably something in here. So I slowly watched my silhouette, and I always try to walk from tree to tree and kind of hide my shape, because while they may be colorblind, I still do not look like anything else in the woods out here, especially when my freaking camo isn't in front of my clothes. So I walked to the tree, and then I just sat there and paused for a few seconds. And then I just listened and kept listening. And sure enough, I heard a clump. And then I got my eyes even more attuned, and I looked across the hillside about 100 yards away, and there's a deer. And it didn't know I was here. But the thing is I had the mentality that there is something in here. And because of that, I was being more quiet and more cautious. So when you're going through the woods, my biggest mistake that I tend to always make is I'm like, man, I only have so much time today because I got to get home and blah, 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 or go to work. So I get out early and I just kind of charge through the forest, and I try to be as quiet as I can, but I'm in a hurry because I'm trying to get to something, and you know, it's just, I tend to want to rush things, and I got to stop doing that. So what I've found is I have a 3-step rule. I take 3 slow steps, and I transfer my weight from each step to the next one carefully and slowly, so I don't go snapping twigs. And I kind of glance at the ground one time, and then I take my steps to figure out my path. Once I take that 3rd step, I stop, and I freeze, and I just listen, and I pan, and I scan new terrain. I look all around to make sure there's nothing that I didn't know was there that's going to surprise me. Because when I happened to jump those elk I was talking about that I took a shot and missed, the reason why I actually saw them first and heard them is because I walked and I thought, well, there might be something over there, so I'm just going to take my time, carefully walk my steps, and then go slowly and stop and listen. And that's the biggest thing, is we get into this hurry because we just want to get there and see what we can see. But use your ears out here, because your ears, especially from dawn to about 8 o'clock, everything is so quiet out here. You can hear it. See right there? I'm not sure exactly what that is, but there is something over there in the woods. And I heard it. It's like, so the sound you're listening for, you won't hear it on this video, but the sound you're listening for is a boom, boom. There's a deep, thud. That's basically hooves hitting the ground. And I wasn't expecting to have something come up on me while I'm sitting here talking on a video, but such is life. So that sound was to my about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and it sounded like it was about 100 yards away or less. So I'm going to pause this video. Actually, let me go ahead and stop it. I'll start another video with some more advice, because there's a lot more about this that I want to cover. But I'm going to figure out what that sound was, because that might be my elk. So if it is, I'm going to put on my GoPro on my bow and see if we can get this guy. But if not, then I'll come back with some more tips on how to actually do some of this stuff. All right, thanks for listening, guys. Good luck hunting out there. Be safe.